Oh shoot. What up, everybody? Happy Sunday, happy May 4th, for those Star Wars fans out there. And hope you all are doing well, man. We back. Episode 4 of season 2, Watch Party slash after show, after the watch party, what we've been doing the last 4 weeks. And I'm excited, man. I think as we talked about last week felt like a almost like a soft reboot of the sorts with the this kind of new beginning, obviously with Joel's death and Ellie and going on the road of vengeance. So based on the trailer we got, man, I think we're in for a treat. Last week, like I said, it was a new beginning, hopefully a sign for some good things, some not so good things as far as dark times for our characters. So I'm excited, man. How's everyone weekend? Again, happy 4th. Aisha, happy 4th. Starry, happy 4th. We got Kevin. Hey, Kevin, by the way, super side tangent. Are you on Facebook, Kevin? Because if so, I think I sent you if you enter, I had a funny enough, I'm gonna have another digital code giveaway, but I did a giveaway for the woman in black. And I think that was you, Kevin, that responded on Facebook. If so, let me know if you're still here because if I sent you the code. But yeah, side tangent. What's up, Kevin? Inez, what's going on? Aisha, Zia, Knowledge, Tony, what's up, everybody? Slide for Joe, hashtag slide for Joe. Slide for Joel. Yeah, man. We I think we're gonna get some interesting stuff. Again, just based on the trailer, I think we're gonna get a little bit of the backstory, or at least a better understanding of the whole situation with the Wolves, with Isaac, played by Jeffrey Wright, who, if I'm not mistaken, I know I sound like a broken record. Haven't played the video game, the second video game, but I'm pretty sure that Isaac was voiced by Jeffrey Wright, and he's going to be playing the character as well, if I'm not mistaken. They did that in season 1 too. I can't think of the character's name, but they brought the actress that voiced the character into live action. So, anywho, I think we will be getting some backstory with Isaac and the Wolves, and it looks like Dina and Ellie are gonna getting some real shenanigans with the infected in some underground under tunnel situation. Again, this is all just based on the trailer from last week, so we might be in for a good one, man. And as always, we'll get the episode started once it's loaded on Max, which I'm waiting for here. And again, I won't be showing the screen. I'll just be watching it with you all. And then after the episode, we'll have a watch party, or a watch party. We'll have an after show talking about the episode. But let me know, everyone in the chat, how everyone weekend was. Did you guys see Thunderbolts over the weekend? Let me know. Amazing actor. Yeah, he is. Jeffrey Wright's one of the best to do it, if you ask me. All right, I think the episode's ready. Episode 4, 53 minutes. Let's get it. But yeah, I'm super excited for Jeffrey Wright. It's been a while since I've seen him in I'm assuming Isaac's a bad guy. Could be wrong, but it's been a while since I've seen him in a villainous role. I'm trying to think of the last time. It wasn't Shaft, was it? Which was well over 30 years. Well, probably like 25 years ago at this point. But was that the last villain role I can think of from the great Jeffrey Wright? I don't know. Was he a villain? I don't think he was a villain in Westworld. But enough of the yapping. Let's get this episode going. All right, got my headphones ready, subtitles on. As y'all know the drill. By now, I'm going to press play, set the timer, and we're going to get this party started. So with all that being said, pressing play in 5, 4, 3, 2, pressing play now. And of course, I like the trailers and previously on play. Subtitles on. There we go. But as the trailers played, did any of you all see Thunderbolts this weekend or Sinners? Because I know it had a pretty successful third weekend, I think. Did you guys see any movies? Did you guys watch any Star Wars movies? All right, here we go. Previously on. You think we go see Abby this week too? Let's get it, baby. Man, Ellie and Dina up against an army. Sinners was better. Yeah, I think so. But Thunderbolts is okay. Here we go. 2018. Ain't that the guy from Josh and that Disney show? I can't think of his name right now. It's Josh and something. Oh, these aren't they against the Wolves? I feel like their truck is about to blow up. I think Jeffrey Wright's in this truck. I think this might be like a sting operation. Yeah, it's Jeffrey Wright in the corner of the screen there. Hey, what's up, Nisi? Josh Pratt. Thank you, Knowledge. I thought I knew it was something, Josh. What's that noise? What's up, Ricky? I love the first two seasons of Westworld. Yeah, Westworld kind of lost my interest after season one, but I know a lot of people love it. Hammer hand? How do you pronounce it? What is happening? Yo. Okay. That's how you introduce a character there, I guess, huh? So he was a part of um the crew, the forces, and I guess had a secret alliance with I, I guess we'll find out. But that was okay. Interesting. He took out his men. I guess the start the wolves. But I thought, did they say the wolves was? No, I don't know the timeline of the wolves. I'm thinking of Eugene's story. I know he was a part of the Fireflies for a bit, but all right, let's see what we got, y'all. He turned his own people. He knew that was the goof. Yeah, why? I guess why did he take the goof one, the goofy one, or the silly one, the newbie? I guess we'll find out. This has become a lot more interesting. Yeah, Jeffrey Wright's that guy. He's the secret sauce that everything is attached to. 11 years later, I knew it. I freaking knew it. The open credit. Yeah, yeah. They had it last week too. Is she about to take a pregnancy test? If y'all was here last week, I was like, something tell me she might be pregnant. I think she just took a pregnancy test, y'all. Because last week, what did she say? She threw up. She had like morning sickness, and then her and knowing that her and Jesse are back together. Oh yeah, she for sure pregnant. Damn. That is gonna make a lot of complications. That's what again made me think. How do you rope Jesse back in when he finds out that his girl, who I wonder if she even know if he knows that she's pregnant? Because if so, I would imagine he'll go after her, go after them both to protect the obviously her and the baby. Yeah, I wonder if Jesse knows. Seems like my internet's been laggy. Wonder what's going on. Can y'all hear me and see me? 'Cause I see the internet keep cutting in and out. At least so damn silly sometimes. Thank goodness for Dina, man. I feel like at least the homie, but Jesus, you would have thought this is her first go round. Very, just kind of not, her radar is not up that you would think being, this is like a serious mission. And if I'm, it's kind of interesting, Sue, kind of seeing the, obviously, Abby had 5 years of sitting with her father's death, but she didn't seem to have that sense of, I don't know, Ellie seems a little, I don't know, you would just think she would be in a more moody mood. Storyline give CW at times. Well, I would assume this is more of a character building, relationship building. And I know the music and the guitar and all that stuff is pretty important to this particular story. So I'm a little CW-ish, sure, but also some character stuff. Making all that noise, I don't know. They acting real brand new right now to the outside. I smell filler episode. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Again, this is from what I know about the game. I know like this guitar or guitars and music and stuff like that is pretty important to the character. I know her and Joel, especially we saw the guitar in what episode 1 of this season and playing a guitar on the porch. So it's probably just something she can remember him by. Joel didn't die from this. Yeah, this song is fire. At least it wasn't as long as the song before. Yeah, Dina's giving her that look. It was decent. I don't know if it was. Oh yeah, that's why I figured it was something from Joel. I know Dina's pure of heart, and Ellie has her, kind of free spirited, openness side. But for a mission of revenge and a mission to kill people, I don't know if that's a top priority right now. A little too carefree for me right now. I'm not saying I want them to be all mopey and sad, but I don't know. They seem to be distracted. Oh my goodness. Where are your clothes, sir? Oh, this is one of those people we met last week. Got a little frontal action here, okay? At the first nudity we got in the show. Center fights, is that the name of the crew? Center fights, scars. Jeez. His name's Malcolm, so we might be getting more of him. You're like, go ahead and do it. Oh shoot. They dedicated for real, for real. Oh, is that the goofy dude from the beginning? Yeah, yeah, that's the guy, the little he looks goofy. When you see he's hardened. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, he was like, go ahead and burn me. Do what you gotta do. I'm gonna keep our secrets. So we got a war between the scars and the wolves. I wonder, does it have anything to do with that scene of him killing the Fredra crew? And like, was that truce? Was he maybe a scar to begin with? No, because they weren't dressed like we saw before. Last week I had briefly looked up because I want to learn more about this scar situation on my own. But I looked up a brief little synopsis of the scars, and from what I remember reading last week, I think they were like happy that the apocalypse happened. They like embraced it as like a almost like like, a reset for Earth and humanity. So it was like Ellie and Dina gonna be caught in between this war between the Scars and the Wolves. The Seraphites are real. I'm not trying to figure out why they thought they moved to. Yeah, this mission is very idiotic. I mean, it's almost damn near a suicide mission, but you know, plot armor is a thing, so I would assume they're going to be okay. Are those people? Oh my goodness! Okay, Last of Us getting dark. They're showing their. Oh my goodness! It's like a scene out of Scream. The scars are. What does that say? The scars are lunatics. Goodness gracious! Is the war that serious? Feel her love. For real. That's hilarious. Yo, you got to get out of there. The Predator. That's a good call. You said, yeah, something out of Predator. Yeah, I didn't actually think of Scream. That's one I think of. Drew Barrymore. What the fuck, Ellie? What are you doing? Oh my gosh. If they don't head back home after this, they are way out of the league right now. Oh my goodness, bro. And it's raining. Ain't no way. Unavailable. I want to see some. I was infected. I meant unbelievable. Whole new show now. All right. No, ain't gonna be nothing good down there. Again, just thinking about that trailer last week. It's like it's about to go down. I think got down there quick. They're gonna ignite one of the this. It's gonna. It's like a hive mind. They have to attract the infected. Oh, this is about to get good. I don't know if you guys have seen Alien Romulus last year, but this is good, especially with Isabella in this. This is giving me Alien Romulus vibes. It counts 5 of them. That sounds a lot more than 5 of them. Sounds like a whole. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my goodness. This is like a ride at Universal Fright Night or something, or Scarefest. Oh, this is fantastic. Like, shout out to the whoever built this. This is a set. This is incredible. Yo, this is terrifying. Come on, Dina. No way. Ain't no way. No, like straight up, this is like a ride at Universal. This is super dope. I say it's all right. It's a goddamn video game. Okay. Forgot that for a second. This feels like a video game, which is awesome. Oh my goodness, bro. Oh, well, we know she can't get infected, but Dina's gonna find out she can't get infected. Oh, that makes sense why she was holding the gun up to her last week in the trailer. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Maybe they're what? She thinks she has to kill her, yeah, because she's infected. Well, she thinks she's infected, but we know she can't be infected. Okay. 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 They are trained to shoot anyone with a bite, but Dina will have to trust Ellie. Yeah. Y'all not my dog barking at the TV. Dina ready to clap Ellie. Yes, she is. I mean, how do you explain this to someone you're immune, right? She's probably heard so many excuses of like, I'm fine, I'm okay. Obviously, know what happens to those people that get bit. What that one chair going? You know what she's doing? She saw you get bit, dummy. It's show her the scar on your stomach. Remember, she got bit in episode one. Show her the scar. What are you gonna do? Yeah, cover scars for a tattoo. Yeah, she cut her. Oh, that's true. She did cut her scar up. That is true. I can't remember because it's been so long since someone's got bitten. Like, how quick or how long does it take for the transformation to happen? She gonna have the gun still pointing on her. I mean, on the bright side, she did take a bite for her. For real. She gonna show her like different variations of scars and bite marks over the years she's covered up. Oh, she's gonna show that it's gone. I wonder if she gonna tell her secret and be like, "I'm pregnant." The video game is different from the show, especially now. Oh, interesting. Care to elaborate? Sorry, let me know what was the difference of how this particular situation was handled. Would be in. She's gonna tell her she's pregnant. I'm pregnant. There you go. What? This is feels random as hell. Look, I'm all for sexual awakenings, but that just seemed like the weirdest and most random sex scene I've seen in a long time. You just thought that she was gonna turn to an infected. You found out you're pregnant, and that turns you guys okay. Whatever floats your boat, whatever kinks you have in the apocalypse, I guess. I guess the idea would be like, we almost just died. We might as well get it out of the way just in case. I'm sorry, that was so random. This not to be a negative Nancy, but the tone is so weird this episode. Like there's no sense of urgency from either one of them. You guys were just almost chased down by the whole cast of Thriller and almost died. And you're on a mission to kill people. This just feels weird. And I can see if they were like miles away from they're like a couple feet away from the train station. Like you need to get up and move and get out of the. This feels weird. I'm gonna talk about the fact she's pregnant. Those are a lot of my thoughts for that show. This feels very clunky. That's all you got to tell her. You got to tell her whole backstory. So Jesse doesn't know. Damn. She paying she for the Dina for the streets, Ellie? Who wrote this episode? This is not good writing. This tone in this episode has been terrible. Um, as we've been doing the last 4 weeks, we'll have an after show, and I'll share more of my thoughts. But out of the 13 episodes we've gotten so far, or 14, easily my least favorite episode of the series. That was rough. That last 15 minutes was rough. Really rough. The writing, the lack of urgency, it's just really clunky. Really, really clunky. But we'll be back. I'm gonna take a little quick commercial break, take my dog out, and we'll break it down. We'll talk about the highs and the lows, but this is a low for me. I'm gonna be honest, guys. This was not a good episode of The Last of Us. Action, solid. Isaac, interesting. The war angles, interesting. That's the best part of this episode. Let's see the trailer for next week. Go back home. Like, this is a stupid mission at this point. You guys are clearly not capable of dealing with this war that's going on right now. What is it? All right. Let's take a little break, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes to discuss this pretty mediocre episode. More on that in a little bit. In the meantime, bathroom breaks, water breaks, and righty, we are back. We are back. Hope you all enjoyed the little break there. Got some water, restroom breaks, and what have you. We are back to talk about this fourth episode of season 2 of The Last of Us, which I believe is titled Day One. And funny enough, we'll talk about this. If you guys have been watching the last few weeks, I clipped these out. So I'm going to talk to you guys for a little bit. Then I'm going to jump into the breakdown and make it more of a polished, edited version of this discussion tonight to put out tomorrow morning. But just kind of catch up with you all. I noticed this episode was directed by Kate Herron, I believe her name is. And that name might ring a bell to some of you all out there. Marvel fans, low key, season 1. Kate directed all 6 episodes of arguably, in my opinion, one of, if not the best season of Marvel television. And I say all that to say, big fan of her work. I did not like the direction of this episode. More importantly, because sometimes, writing can override and kind of clean up the mistakes of a direction of a story, but the writing can be really polished up. I think the writing was pretty poor this episode too. We'll get into the reasons why. But like I said, if you all joined the watch party, I thought that this was maybe arguably the worst episode of The Last of Us. Now, obviously, the bar is up here. It's been great television this past 13, 14 episodes. But this was a clunky episode. Tonally, it was clunky. And it's just, we'll get into it. But I wasn't the biggest fan of tonight's episode. Also, when you take into consideration that we only have, 3 episodes left? We'll save all this for the discussion. But before we get into it, man, again, we'll break it all down. But I appreciate those that joined the watch party and have been joining it for the last 4 weeks. These have been so much fun. So glad to be back doing these live streams with you all. But I appreciate you all that are joining in on this after show as well. And like I said, in a little bit, I'll do a breakout, kind of focus on the breakdown. And then I'll clip this out for tomorrow morning. And obviously have any conversations that you guys want to have after the fact, questions, comments, concerns after this episode. So with all that said, enough of the shenanigans. Let me I'll do my intro and then I'll get to the breakdown and we'll get this party started. So with all that being said, welcome y'all. We are back with our breakdown of The Last of Us season 2 episode 4, which was titled Day One and directed by a director I'm a fan of, which is Kate Herron. For any MCU Marvel fans out there, that name might ring a bell because she was the director of all 6 episodes of what I consider to be one of the best shows that Marvel has put out. But we'll talk about the direction, we'll talk about the episode, but I want to know something from you all first. What did you think? This is our 4th episode of this new season. This is in my opinion, the 2nd episode of this season, because I feel like episodes 1 and 2 were more like an epilogue to season 1, and episode 3 was kind of the kicking off point, the reset, the pilot, if you want to call it that, for this other part of the story. So with that said, let me know what you all thought of the episode, the highs, the lows, the direction, the writing. For the people that were joining me live for a watch party that we had for the episode, a lot of the people in the comments were saying, compared to the video game where the video game was at, that this was not handled as well as some of the other episodes, especially some of the changes that were made. So I would love to hear from the TV watchers like myself, but also the video gamers. What did you think about the episode? Let's talk about it in the comments below. But my initial impressions before we really get into the nitty-gritty, my least favorite episode was tonight. We'll get into my reasons why, but just off the top, I thought the writing was pretty poor. I thought the direction was kind of inconsistent, and I thought that there were just things in this episode that just felt off. There was a lack of sense of urgency from Dina and Ellie, and it was very clunky. And we'll break that down. But positively speaking, some good action sequences, some good thrilling, suspenseful moments. The backstory with Isaac that we have, this war that I'm new to between the Scars and the Wolves and all the stuff's going there. So there is some good to be had in tonight's episode, but when you look at the full body of work here, pretty disappointing. But with all that being said, let's kind of get into the breakdown, starting off with our opening scene. And like I had mentioned just now, let me get this set up here properly. So our opening scene here, really to me, and I'll just be honest with you all, this would be considered the B plot of the episode, and that's Isaac. I thought that was the strongest part of this episode from the get-go. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken horse, but just in case someone's watching one of my breakdowns for the first time, I'm a fan of the game, the first game. I've owned 2 copies of the game. I've played it several times, but I did not play game 2. So I knew some things about the game, the second game, but I wasn't, I don't know all the nuances and all the new characters. And this is one of those new things. I'm not too familiar with the Seattle storyline and all that stuff. So this is my first time being introduced to Isaac, played by the incredible Jeffrey Wright, who, from my understanding, was the voice of the actor of the character Isaac in the video game. And luckily enough, I would imagine the age of Isaac and the age of Jeffrey Wright kind of lines up so they can bring the actor who voiced the character into the live action, unlike some of the other characters obviously aged out of their roles or what have you. So with all that being said, this opening scene sets the mood and really intrigues me with Isaac. As the episode opens, we cut back to 2018 with the characters that we have here, and we've heard of this organization before. They're kind of like the government, the police of the situation. And there's a conversation being had around the Fedra individuals about a particular set of a town that they came across, some individuals they came across, and the way they're talking about them is like they're less than, right? They call them voters. Again, they speak about these people like they're less than them, that they're just kind of people that don't really matter to them. And I think that's important for what's about to happen. Excuse me, something in my throat there. I think that's important for something that's about to happen here in a second. Because Isaac says in this scene, he explains why they call them that name, and he has a kind of disdain about how they're speaking about them. And to me, I think that's pivotal, because I think Isaac is old school. I could be wrong, but I get the vibe that he's very old school. That he comes from a thought process or a belief of how people should be treated, how they used to be treated before, the Fedra took over, and how things used to be. This is kind of what I'm getting from him. Because these guys in the truck seem to not have any care for the people. So he tells them, why they call them the voters and what have you, and they apologize and all that stuff. But again, I'm getting a sense that Isaac is not a fan of how Fedra and this new kind of way that they carry themselves and how they treat people, how they talk about people, is not something that he's a fan of. He's not cut from that cloth. He's seen a lot of days, seen a lot of dark, seen a lot of death, seen a lot of change in people in the world. And I think the way that Fedra and these people are carrying themselves, I think Isaac is fed up, which kind of leads us into this moment here where we see Isaac talking to this character. Can't think of the actor's name, seen her in plenty of works. But they're having a conversation about, are you Isaac? He doesn't say yes, but he nods his head, confirming it's him. And we proceed to see Isaac take out his crew pretty violently. There didn't seem to be any remorse. It didn't seem to be any love loss. He seemed to be pretty content with blowing up these guys in the truck and shooting one in the head. And then he takes one of them out. And the one that he decided to take out of the truck seemed to be kind of a new guy, right? Now, could be wrong, but him taking this new guy with him, to me, was almost like you haven't been set in the ways of Fedra. You haven't been fed the new way that they treat people, or a lack of good treatment. So he's maybe given this kid an opportunity to start from scratch. Essentially, he's not embedded with the beliefs of Fedra and how they treat people. So I think he's giving him a chance to say, look, kid, you can either go with them and I'll just kill you right now, or you can come with me with, I'm assuming, is the beginnings of Wolf. I don't know if Wolf, again, I haven't played the game, I don't know if they're already like an established faction of, a group of people, or if this is literally the origins. This young lady and Isaac are like the humble beginnings of this new group of people. But again, from what I got from this scene, Isaac will kill you if you're not on his side. Taking out those men, with a grenade and then shooting the one out of the car is a pretty violent act, and shows where he's at, that he's just fed up. He doesn't give them a chance he doesn't give them the opportunity like he gave the one young man, because I think he already knows they're set in their ways. So this is a hell of a way to introduce a character to someone new like myself as an audience member, to someone that's cold, calculus, very no nonsensical and comes from a different line of a thought process and how he handles his business. Jeffrey Wright, I don't need to let y'all know, but for me, he's one of the greatest actors in his generation. He continues to evolve as an actor. He's always a chameleon. He can fit into any role. I haven't seen him in this type of a role in a long time, as far as I'm assuming he's going to be our villain moving forward, potentially. But hell of a way to introduce a character, him taking out his men, and you would assume that, again, the way he went about it and just how kind of dead he was about it just seemed like he was fed up with it. And this seems to be, again, the humble beginnings of him leaving that life of Fedra and beginning this new life as the leaders of the wolves. So again, to me, as we'll continue to talk about this breakdown, all that stuff, the wolves, the scars, that was interesting. That is this is a new chapter. This is a new story. There's no more Joel, obviously. But this whole idea of this individual who has this military background, who's a leader of these crew of the wolves, and the way he carries himself, this is interesting. Again, I don't know if this is stepping on the toes of the Abby, Ellie, Joel beef. And I'm very curious of how that's going to wrap into this overall story. Like, are we going to have episodes with Isaac and the wolves and the scars? I'm just very intrigued to see how that gets into the mix. So all that stuff, and we'll get to more of it a little bit later with the torture scene. But I'm intrigued. But getting to the stuff that was a little wonky to me this episode, as we have on the screen now. We have Ellie, we have Dina following them from last week. They're in Seattle. They're, scavenging for resources, medicine, things of that nature to take on this journey with them. And we see, them having a little back and forth banter, gathering stuff up. And if you guys saw my breakdown last week, again, not knowing this was going to be the case, but I had a feeling that Dina was going to reveal to be pregnant. And my reasonings were pretty much laid out the way she said it, which is, she threw up after seeing the dead bodies last week. And as I said to myself, you would imagine she's seen some pretty dark stuff, as the years with the apocalypse going down, that this isn't her first dead body, right? So her throwing up and then the conversation about getting back with Jesse, there was a vibe that she was pregnant. And later on, we obviously find that out in this episode. And she also, when she's in the medical area, she pauses and she says going to use the restroom. And again, you can put two and two together to come to the conclusion that Dina is indeed pregnant, which is, again, this is the least interesting part of this episode to me, was our two lead characters, essentially. But it is an interesting idea of, like, how is Jesse going to handle this news? I mean, I'm assuming he doesn't know, because it seems like, I could be wrong, but I feel like Dina just found out herself after taking the pregnancy test. Like, this wasn't something, I think she had an idea, but I don't think she shared that she could be pregnant with Jesse. So that's going to be really intriguing to see if how would he find out if they go back? Obviously, they don't have cell phones, so that's going to be intriguing nonetheless. But let's get into some of the clunkiness of this episode to me. At the beginning, we get the great, again, you can't ever commend the production of the show, like them in Seattle and all the background, the backdrop, the visual effects, all the stuff is clean and it feels lived in, feels tangible. I love the production of the show. And we have Ellie and Dina continuing to build on their relationship and their bond. They're looking, Wilson, this kind of ties into my criticisms. Ellie is being very clumsy, being very, like, this is her first, literally the episode's called Day One, but she's acting like this is her first day in the apocalypse. She's very careless, dropping the door of the tank and not really, Dina she sees the wolf signs on one of the towers, the radio towers. She's, oh, let's just go. Let's go. And Dina's like, hey, normally when people do that, they want you to see that sign. And the chances of someone being on a high, altitude or being on top of a hill and they could see us on horses and they could shoot us and not knowing who we are is pretty likely. And Ellie's like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. Like, Ellie, why are you acting brand new? I know you're, maybe a little not fully yourself with the loss of Joel, and you have your boo thing that you're maybe distracted by. I get all that, but in this world of the infected and the apocalypse, you would think certain things are like second nature, right? How to cross a corner, how to check a tank, how to be aware of your surroundings. It seems very day one. Seems very new, which is kind of, again, for my video game players out there, is this kind of the vibe that Ellie's given in the game as a 19-year-old, or is there maybe a little bit more creative liberties of the way that she carries herself is just very, again, careless, which is kind of shocking. Especially another thing that kind of is throwing me off is, again, obviously Abby set with the grieving, the pain, the anger, the frustration of losing her father for 5 years. So it's consumed her, this anger, this hate, and it's fresh to Ellie losing Joel, but the I don't feel like she's. And again, I love nuance and character. I don't want my characters just to be one thing, just to be brooding and angry and all that. I want to see some complexity, but I'm not seeing a vengeful, hateful, mad, angry filled Ellie that I would think she would be at this point, right? But maybe as the journey continues, we'll see some of that anger, but I'm not seeing that so far. But you know, I can appreciate a musical number every now and then, especially in a apocalyptic, catastrophic world that they're in. I like a good musical, but I am to assume that this whole song and dance, when I'm being kind of facetious, but I would assume this moment between Ellie and Dina as she's playing the song. Great song, by the way. And Bella sounded pretty solid. I don't think it was, break out the tissues and cry like this is like a generational singer or something. But I think, emotions are high and there's love in the air. And of course, Dina has a baby on the way. So, you know, she can be maybe more um, sensitive to situations like this. But I am to assume that they took this break from the infected and the Abby mission and the stakes being high and being in this unknown territory where you don't know who's watching you. I would assume that this is like a video game moment. It seems like a video game moment, like something that was literally taken from the video game. And I would assume, again, let my gamers out there let me know this was like a big moment for the two characters to come together. I know some people were complaining about episode 2 where it was Ellie and Jesse that went to the 7-Eleven with the weed shop of Eugene's. If I'm not mistaken, that was supposed to be Dina and Ellie, and that was like a moment that they kind of, bonded and got closer. But we didn't get that, obviously. So I'm assuming that this is kind of, if I was, the writers, this is making up for that. We're not going to not give the audience this particular scene because it seemed to get them closer from what I gathered. Because again, Ellie's playing the song. It's almost like a moment of like, there's no infected, there's no Joel, there's no Ellie, there's no hate, there's no vengeance, there's just them in the moment, right? Them, the music, and their feelings, right? I would imagine that's kind of what I could be, that's what I got from it, that it was just like a moment to just kind of decompress and not worry about how we're going to live, how we're going to survive, yada, yada, yada. It's like the small things when you're in this type of world that you have to appreciate. And this seems like the moment that Dina saw the love of her life, potentially. I don't know if Jesse's breaking out the guitar, singing to her, serenading her. But again, I could understand on paper how this could be pivotal. But I just feel like with all the shit that's going on right now and the mission that they're on right now, priorities. Let's scout out the area. Let's not bang on instruments that can attract the infected on top of humans that are around the perimeter. I don't know. It seemed a little ridiculous. but it could just be me. But anyway, before we move on, let me see what you guys are talking about in the comments. If I'm on an island on my feelings about Ellie and Dina's lack of care, let me know. All right, let's see. I'm trying to scroll up to some of the earlier comments here before we get into it. Didn't start off bad, but the ending was forced confusing. Yeah, we'll definitely break that down. It was definitely confusing for sure. Jeffrey Wright couldn't save this so he tried. I mean, again, that was, like I mentioned, as we'll continue to talk about, that was some of the best. That was the best part of the episode, besides the action scene. If Ellie get a pretty girl alone in the room with zombies outside, she gonna smash. This is the second time this has happened. What was with her friend in season 1? Was that the first time? Didn't play the game. But I think we're moving into game 2. The voters piece was hard to watch. Isaac was pre-wildlife versus all the soldiers were young. Yeah, you definitely get that vibe. That he's, like I said, cut from a different cloth. He comes from a different set of circumstances. Paul with the super chat. Thank you, man. 49 super chat. I think Jesse's going to want to say when he hears that Dina's having a baby. I think Jesse wants to say or stay, is what you mean? He's going to want to stay when he hears that Dina's having a baby, or he's going to want to leave, I would imagine, maybe is what Paul's getting at. And I totally agree. But how is he going to find out is my question. Right, Paul? They don't have ways of communication. I mean, I would just imagine that maybe Jesse would probably go after Dina and Ellie just for the simple fact that they're friends and that's his girlfriend. So I would imagine that would be like his motivation to go look for them. And then he's going to find out that she's pregnant. But as of right now, I don't know how he would find out that she was pregnant as she just found out. So yeah. So that it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to play out. Because as of right now, Jesse and Ellie are on good terms. And obviously Jesse and Dina were still together, even though, as we'll talk about later, she wasn't, which I kind of feel bad for Jesse. It's like she's on a test run. But again, that sometimes happens. You got to know what you got to explore things to figure out what you like and what you don't like. But, it's kind of messed up that he's been obviously thinking that they've had a good bond and relationship, and he's got her pregnant, and she's like, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant and I'm no longer into you, but guys in general. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Jesse, who's been chill, cool, calm, and collective, and a really cool character thus far. I'm very intrigued to see how his personality or attitude changes once he finds out what's happening between his friend and his girlfriend and a father to be in this world that I wouldn't imagine bringing a baby into an apocalyptic world is a good situation. But life goes on. Anywho, getting back into our discussion here. So again, we establish Ellie, Dina, the love is in the air, the romance is in the air, and it's kind of, in my opinion, distracting them from the not even necessarily the mission, but just distracting them of being on their P's and Q's. Dina's, she's still kind of keeping things on target, but Ellie definitely seems to be very distracted right now, which is a bit frustrating, if I'm being honest. But back to the good stuff. Jeffrey Wright, torturing people. Again, I love a good villain that shows a little bit of you get a little bit of backstory. He talks about how back in the day, before stuff really went wild, his time with the women, he wasn't really a people or a ladies' man, but he knew how to cook. And he tells a story about how one day he wanted to have his own, I can't remember the name of the brand or the material that it's made of, but the really good pots and pans to make food in. And he wanted this very high-end level of pots and pans, and now he has it. But it took the world to end, right? It's like the take the good with the bad, or at what cost do you have to um, what do you lose to get what you want? And then, we know the world is definitely not in a place he wanted to be. But again, he's talking to this, I believe the character name was Malcolm, that he's torturing here in this scene. And it was rough to watch, man. I mean, we see he's beaten and bloodied up, and I would assume that Malcolm was a part of the scars that we met last week. I mean, of course, there's other scars, I would assume, but I would also assume that he was maybe a part of that particular group of people that they recently took out and took for hostage. But man, this was, very interesting to watch because there's a lot to explore in this scene. Again, being new to this story, this particular part of the story, and the particular, the second part of the game, this war between the wolves and the scars, and the dedication that the scars have, right? Malcolm tells Isaac, like, we would die for her. This is in your, it goes on and on and on about how they're not going to win this war. And even before that, he burns his hand, and the guys outside are not on board with this level of torture. And Malcolm doesn't break. If anything, he's embracing this level of torture because it is almost like a ritual of the prophet that they followed. It's almost like she's watching over me, and she would be proud of me for not giving up any information, letting you know where our team's gonna hit. And they're going back and forth about their ways of war. You've killed our kids, you killed our kids, who started, what came first, the chicken and the egg, and yada yada yada, which again, I'm very curious to know where this began. And I always like to discover stories as we watch it unfold. But I did do not a ton of research, but I did, do the quick Wikipedia Google search of the scars. And the one thing that I took away, I didn't want to read too much because again, I want to uncover this story as we watch it week by week. But the one thing that caught my eye was, from my understanding, the scars are thriving in the apocalypse. This prophet and their followers are almost happy that the apocalypse happened because it was a way for the world to reset and maybe to get back to these older ways. They have the clothes they wear, the way they talk, the scars on their face, the fact that they carry bow and arrows, like they want to go back to like a very archaic type of time. It's almost like, Noah's Ark, where the world reset itself and, life went on from there, but it was like a clean slate. And essentially, I wonder if that's how the scars look at the infected as a way of resetting humanity and getting back to the basics. So really interesting. Really, again, this is the best part of the episode. This understanding, this origins, this backstory, this war going on right now is very intriguing. But as they're going back and forth, and Isaac's about to burn him again with the pot of the pan, the Malcolm sticks his hand, do your worst, do what you got to do. And once he said that, Isaac just shot him because he knew he wasn't going to get anything out of him. So again, to me, that speaks volumes that they are dedicated 10 toes down in the belief of the prophet and the belief of what they're fighting for. And I'm very intrigued to know, because again, throughout the back and forth, they mentioned that it was, you started it, we started this, that, and the third. How did this war start? Is it pivotal to the overarching story? Like, does it right now, again, just from a very early on in the story, I would imagine that it has some type of thematic resonance to this overarching story of revenge and vengeance and how the world reset itself. And it's just like, and this is just an allegory about typically when you have infected zombie stories, the humans are the worst in the world. And, Walking Dead, in this case, is like, the infected has a level of degree of stakes and being afraid of what's around the corner, but it's the humans that makes things worse. So I'm very curious to know how this story thematically ties into the story of Abby and Ellie. Is almost like on a bigger scale. You have these two groups of people at war with each other, kind of fighting over who's right, who's wrong. How do we carry on as a humanity, as a society? And that kind of on a smaller level, you have who was right and wrong. Was Joel right for killing the doctor of Abby? Was he wrong for doing that? Killing a man in cold blood that was defenseless. Is Ellie wrong to go after her and try to get her vengeance? So it's the story of like where the path you go down and how it can lead to so many lives being lost. So again, that stuff is really intriguing. That B plot was way more interesting to me than the A plot. And I'm very intrigued to see where it goes. But again, just speaking to how this world has turned people. Again, we saw this young guy at the beginning of the episode, and we see he's almost, I don't say lifeless, but he's just as cold as Isaac, right? We saw him at the beginning. He didn't even know how to hold a gun. He was all scared and nervous and know what to say or what to do. After Isaac killed those Fedra guards or forces, and now he's just like, I don't have the direct quote, but he says the animal deserved it, right? Isaac has converted him, right? It's almost like this interesting idea of religion or what you believe in this world of the Last of Us. People followed this prophet. I can't remember her name right now. But they follow her and this belief that they had and how they carried on and how there's this lack of hope in the world, but they're just blindly sheep and following this individual. And then the same thing with Isaac and the wolves. They're just following his ideology and his beliefs and how he wants to operate. So it is an interesting theme of just like how society finds ways to find things to believe in, even if it takes their humanity away, right? It's just like, I guess it's some form of hope. It's like any religion, not to get too religious here, but at any form of religion, it's like something to believe in that's greater than yourself and something to wake up and have hope for, even if it means at the expense of killing others. So I'm very intrigued by this plot, to say the least. But let's get back into the comments and then we'll get into the more of the breakdown here. Let me get the next bit of stuff set up here. Where are we at in the episode? Let's see. Okay, yeah. I'm just setting up the next scene and I'll get to you guys' comments here in a second. I don't know if I can show that on screen with the bodies. But let's see here. Let's see. It also confirms Joel taught Ellie how to play, which was sweet. Just a wish Ellie brought it up to Joel. Yeah, that's a great point. I should have brought that up earlier. As far as the other importance of that scene was, a little callback to Joel and Ellie's connection, and I would think so. I know Ellie told Jesse she spoke to Joel in episode 2 before, the events of him dying, that she, I'm assuming, went back and talked to him on the porch. But I guess we'll find out later. But yeah, that is a good point that, that was a moment for her to kind of remember him. She's reacting, accept her flaws and all. It's a good point as far as that song. Yeah, good call out there. I would have preferred this scene be placed in last week's episode. Yeah, because it kind of, that would have been, if you're referring, I'm catching up to the comments. If you're referring to the song, the sing along moment, yeah. Warning, but more important, why they should be united against the vengeance hordes, but it doesn't seem to. Yeah, I mean that's the thing about anything of society, right? It's just like, I mean, we've seen it in our real world where things happen. Sometimes we come together as a people, but a lot of times it's just like things get in the way of coming together. Other agendas and beliefs get in the way of logic. So that's just the story of the world, unfortunately, the story of humanity. Anyone else felt like a lot was rushed and wasn't coherent, like a lot of the ground to get covered at nothingness was given time to breathe and develop? Because we're next. Was it me? No, I think as I mentioned up top, Justin, it's a great comment. This episode felt off from a writing perspective, and also just a direction. I couldn't really, especially once we get into this back half of the episode, just felt out of place. The way it was written and how it was put together was just very, very odd. But we'll get into that here in a second. But great comments, guys. Keep them coming. Again, I'll pop into the chat in between our breakdown here. But getting back to the conversation. So now we're in the second half of the episode. And again, at this point in the episode, I'm like, okay, we're developing this relationship, even though I didn't feel like it was the placement and the lack of urgency was kind of bothering. But I'm like, okay, it's still developing these characters, and I still enjoy watching them kind of connect and what have you. But on the other side, we have the Isaac stuff and the Vedra and the scars and the wolves. I'm like, okay, we're cooking with some gas here. This is a really interesting episode. I'm liking where the story's kind of setting things up. So, nightfall, Ellie, Dina, scavenging around, looking around. They come across this area where they find, and I'm not going to put it on the screen because it is pretty graphic. Kind of caught me by surprise. I mean, yes, the show is graphic and for mature, but this was pretty damn graphic. And, the scene I'm referring to is as they walk into this room, they see the bodies of the wolves with their intestines out of their body, for shout out to my Scream fans out there. And also someone during the live stream brought up how it very Predator like, right? And couldn't agree more. It was very graphic, very, very telling. Again, from a narrative perspective, it's like these scars are savages. Like that is one thing just to, we saw how the wolves just seemed to pretty much just shoot them dead from what we saw in last week's episode with their bodies on the ground, but they didn't seem to take pleasure in carving them up. That is pretty. And then also I would imagine it was to send a message, because it was written on the wall. They wrote a message on the wall too. So that is a very disturbing set of people that go to those lengths to send a message in the way they do that. So again, that wolves scars storyline is piquing my interest. But as they're navigating, they hear someone's coming, and we see it's the wolves, and they find their fallen friends and fellow soldiers are gutted, and they're out for blood. They say, hey, fan out. There might be some other scars here. I don't care if it's children, men, women, whatever. If you see them, kill them. So that puts obviously Allie and Dina in a predicament as they're trying to, again, based on this being on a video game, you would imagine in the game, you're trying to obviously not get caught, and you're crouching, and, you're not trying to step on things. So very, very very Last of Us moment here, which I love. But as they're secretly trying to not get caught, Ellie goes upstairs, tries to open up a window, which I don't, if the window was open, was she going to leave Dina down there? Anywho, one of the wolves goes upstairs, and I thought it was kind of premature to attack the wolf, but I mean, I guess something was going to have to happen, because if he would have turned around, Ellie would have been in his line of sight and would have got a clear shot on him. So I guess she got the jump on him, and she attacks him, and she's and again, we saw her train earlier in the season, so we understand that she can hold her own to an extent. And while she's taking him down, he gets the advantage and is about to shoot Ellie, but then this is where Dina comes in, pops him in the head. Obviously, their cover's been blown. They're running from the wolves, and in my mind, if I'm the wolves, I'm like, we got to be more strategic around this, right? Because not only are we trying to catch these what they're assuming to be the scars, and you don't know if there's any backup or any other scars nearby. But not even that. There's the infected. It's like I said, a lot of uh again, adrenaline's high, and you're not thinking straight. But there was a lot of kind of clumsiness on both sides. But either who, they find an opening into an abandoned uh, underground, where they thought it was abandoned. At least the wolves did. But they make their way, again, thinking about the video game, when you're crouching and it's very tight quarters in the game. And obviously we see that here. They make their way into this tunnel with this train station. And I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. This show's production is outstanding. Like, I love this set. As I was watching the episode during our watch party, I kept thinking of, like, obviously the video game, they're adapting that, but just I'm thinking, like, if I was in this predicament, in this situation, this feels like a ride at Universal at Scarefest. So very cool set, dark and ominous, and you don't know what's around the corner. And also, just like, I'm a big fan of, like, I don't know, I thought of Jurassic Park when they threw the flares out and bringing it to the world that we're in. Unfortunately, in this situation, the flare ignites and signals the fungi to its hive mind, so it communicates through the fungus and it attracts the infected. And regardless of how I feel about this second half, this was exciting. This was, obviously, in my mind, you try to be in the moment with these type of scenes, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, plot armor. You're not going to kill Ellie and Dina in this moment. But you're not thinking about that, because that's signs of good direction, good storytelling. It's just like you put that aside for a second. Like, you're not going to kill the main characters in this moment, even though we just lost the main character 2 episodes ago. But it's just like, you're not going to just continue to kill characters after every other episode. But neither here nor there. They hear the clickers, and it's Dina's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like, no, your count's way off. You need a new metric to how to hear what's coming, because it was like an army of at least 100 plus clickers. But it was just it was captured so well, and the way it was shot was very terrifying, because again, you try to separate yourself from the the reality of the situation. You try to cut that logical sense off of, like, you're watching a show, you're watching a movie. Like, no, you're invested in it, right? So I'm just like on the edge of my seat watching the horde come at them and tearing through the soldiers. And obviously we care for our main characters in the situation and in peril, and they're jumping on the train, they're going through the corridors of the train. Like, this was a great scene here from Kate Herron and everyone involved. Obviously, the actors involved, Bella and Isabella, did a good job of, like, playing into the tension and then the chaos and the urgency. And it's just like, this is The Last of Us. We're reminded in this world of scars and wolves and guitar playing and will they, won't they? It's like, well, when we put that aside, this is a world that it's very scary. And this was a reminder of that. And it was a great way to kind of remind us too, in a sense, especially of the tempo of this episode. It kind of heightened things. It put a level of fear in the audience, but also a fear in the characters here. And again, the set was just, again, it reminded me so much of like, I haven't played, again, I don't want to sound like a dead horse, but I haven't played the game, but I've played the first one. And this is very video game-ish, right? It's just, you're in a particular train, you're trying to get away from the infected by any means necessary, you're shooting them, and it was really well done. Really well done. As the scene progresses, they attempt to make their way out of the train station. They make their way upstairs to the escalator, and they're stuck in one of those gates, and a big moment happens here. Again, the infected are coming after them. The tensions are high. We don't know what's going to happen next. Again, I didn't anticipate one of our main characters to die, but something big happens nonetheless, even if they didn't die. And that is, in a on a story level, but also just on a character level. We saw Ellie essentially, immune or not, sacrifice herself for Dina. As we see on the screen now, the infected was about to go in on Dina, and Ellie puts her hand right in front of her. Obviously, Ellie knows she's going to be okay, but Dina doesn't know that, right? So that's some true romance. She really is 10 toes down, fully in love with Dina to do that. Obviously, I don't even think, and that happens so quickly. I mean, just because she's immune doesn't mean that the zombie can't just rip through her arm and grab her, and other stuff could have went down. So it was just a matter of, I'm going to protect you by any means necessary. So that's a big moment for not only Ellie but to Dina to see that, and obviously on multiple levels, she just sacrificed herself for me, but also she just got bit. So it's a conflict, right? It's a big dilemma that they find themselves in, especially from Dina's perspective. So they make it out, and immediately Dina's shooken. She just like she grabs her gun, and she follows Ellie into this abandoned. It looked like it was like a theater, if I'm not mistaken, to the theater, and then she immediately points the gun at Ellie, rightfully so. Again, we've seen Dina is very on her P's and Q's. She's very much aware, even if she is somewhat distracted by the attraction of being with Ellie, but she is very much like, okay, I don't want to do this, but I got to do this. And she has the gun on her, and this is where some of the writing felt a little underwhelming and didn't feel as intense. I didn't feel the sense of urgency in the scene. That was a big issue that I had in this episode. It just felt tonally like it was off. Something was off about this episode. And this is an example here. She's trying to explain to her, and I mean, it's a tough predicament to be in. How do you explain to someone that you're immune, right? This is the first time Dina has probably ever heard of this, of someone being immune to the disease, to the infected. So of course she's going to say that she wants to survive, and I would imagine Dina has probably had her fair share of people. It's like, oh, I'm okay, don't kill me. They've been in this world for so long, but I don't know if it was maybe the acting was off, the writing, it just felt clunky. Ellie's trying to explain to her, don't shoot. I'm immune. I know it's hard to imagine, but I'm gonna sleep over there. You can watch me overnight, and yada yada yada. Again, I think it's just the execution of it all just felt underwhelming, and again, it was just felt off to me personally. So I don't know if you guys felt the same. Let me know in the comments if you felt that sense of urgency, if you felt that scene was handled well. Again, I would love to know from the gamers out there how, I would imagine, you all can see immediately pros and cons. So I would love to hear from you all. But she shows her, I'm gonna sleep overnight, and if I turn, shoot me. Right? Obviously, you're not gonna have to shoot me because I've done this a bunch of times already. I mean, hell, she was bit earlier this season in episode 1, and we saw she covered up her scars to obviously not have to worry about this situation happening. But yeah, man, it was just I don't know. I didn't necessarily like the scene per se, but then we follow that up with, it's the next morning, or several hours later. She wakes up. She clearly sees that she's not infected. And I'm all for characters having a moment of realization that you're the one for me, I'm the one for you. We're in this world of chaos. We've seen it 1,000 times in stories. Before someone goes off to war, they have an intimate moment with their partner because they don't know if they're going to see them again. I get all that. But I guess for me in this scene, as we see, they wake up. Ellie says, "I'm okay," and Dina tells her she is pregnant. And as soon as she tells her she's pregnant, they uh they have their first intimate moment. Um, they hook up, and again, if this was there's a time and a place. If this was maybe in Jackson, if the stakes weren't so high, you literally just survived, barely survived. If she wasn't immune, I'm referring to Ellie, she would have been dead. It just felt like just the bad timing, and I guess, and again, I don't know if this happens in the game the way it shakes out. It just felt not the right time to have that moment, to me. Now, of course, Gina tells her the reason because Ellie asks her, what changed? Why now? And she explains to her, when you saved me, I thought I envisioned this life with us, and, I thought that was gone. So now knowing that you're okay, I'm okay, the baby's okay, I just thought that was a perfect opportunity. And I get it. Adrenaline's, listen, I've never been in that position being chased by infected people as well as people trying to kill me. But I get the idea of just like you only got one life. You don't know how much time on earth you have. You don't know, you know, if you can tell that person you love them. So I get all that. And then plus, when you put yourself in their shoes, this is to a heightened to another level. But it just felt very random. And again, to me, this whole episode just lacked this sense of urgency and lacked the sense of like desperation. And again, I feel like Ellie, I don't want to say she's forgotten about her mission, about why she's here and why they're in Seattle, but it kind of feels that way. And I get that she's with the person she cares for, and now they're together. And even that scene when they're like after they hooked up and they're talking, and it's just like pillow talk essentially. It's just like, guys, what are you doing? Like, you don't know if you're safe anymore. You don't know if there's a whole army outside waiting for you. You don't know if the horde still. It felt like a scene. It felt like a scene from another show. Like I feel like I was watching something on Freeform. I don't know. It just felt off. But she tells, and then the Ellie of it all, she's like, "We're gonna have a baby. I'm gonna be a dad." It's like, I guess me, you, and Jesse, we'll figure it out. Just like, what? Y'all, and if I'm Dina, I'm like, hold your horses. I mean, we just, I don't know. I don't say kids, but they're 19, 20-year olds. They don't know any better. Um, I don't know. It just felt like a different show. I guess is where I'm getting at. I felt like not a world that I've been. I feel like just a different tone, different writing, and just felt off. And I don't want to be, and I don't want to get this twisted. Like, oh, you don't love, you don't want. No, it's not. It's not that. It's just, to me, it's a time and a place, and it's a way you can execute it. And it just felt like came out of nowhere. But I'm sure people at home that play the games like, no, this is how the scene went. This is a one for one. But I'll find out in the comments. If that is the case, if this is how it played out, even if it, and again, this just speaks like, even if it happened in the game, it doesn't necessarily mean you gotta like it. Just because it was in a game doesn't mean you have to like, oh, just because in the game it's perfect. No, there's a way to execute things. I just felt that the execution was pretty poor. And it just felt so like, I'm gonna be a dad, and we're gonna be the triplet or a triplet. We're gonna be Three's Company, and everything's good. I'm like, I'm sorry, Ellie. Have you forgotten that you are trying to kill Abby and don't you got an army? I don't know. It feels very childish to me. And I would just think that Ellie would be so much more, what's the word? Hardened, more cold, more like gun hole on the I don't know. Anyway, at this point, as we wrap up the back half of the episode, they hear there's commotion outside. There's essentially the war that we've been leading to believe is going on between the scars of the wolves, and Nora's name is brought up. And of course, we know Nora was part of the crew of Abby's crew, and they look over and they see that there's an explosion going on. Like this is going down, right? This is not, as they're saying their good mornings and morning breath and being all cute and cuddly. It's like a friendly reminder that this isn't not in the suburbs. They're in the middle of a war. And Ellie tells Dina, I wouldn't be mad at you if you decide to leave for obvious reasons. You are about to be a mother of a child, so it probably makes sense that you would take caution in your moves. But Ellie and Dina are now fully in love, and love conquers the zombie apocalypse and conquers survival and logic. But I'm assuming from this point on it's Ellie and Dina all the way. They're in it to win it. They're looking over in the war and seeing what they're about to walk into, and Dina tells her we're together. A little irresponsible for a soon-to-be mother. But also, I think you fall back and retreat, man. This is too much. I don't think Ellie. Listen, I love Ellie. I'm a big fan of the Dina character, but it's just like, what is the mission? I don't even understand. Obviously, she wants to kill Abby, but it's just like, it just seems so sloppy. And I get, sometimes when you're trying to get revenge in these type of stories, you overcome it. Your logic is kind of buried down, but it just seems so a tough pill to swallow and a tough hill to climb. But I guess we'll find out what comes of it. But as we wrap up the breakdown, and we'll continue our live discussion here, but this was my least favorite episode, as I mentioned up top, and reasons being, I just felt that the writing was very underwhelming, but also just the situations we found our characters in this episode, and their lack of urgency, their lack of where they are, their placement, and knowing the time and place and how to react to certain things, or lack of reactions, just felt very very YA. And just didn't feel like the show that I've seen before. It just felt very, very different. Now, what does that mean moving forward? Is this more of what's going to come in this new chapter of Ellie and Dina, and things like this are going to be more of an occurrence as far as the love story being more of a focus and what have you? How does Abby get back into the fold? It's going to be intriguing. So that stuff right now, I'm a little curious about. I'm a little concerned about, if I'm being honest, because I didn't like the way it was handled in this episode. Not every show is going to bat 100. So, but anyway, the thing that I did like about the episode, Isaac, the war with the wolves, the scars, and their, the wolves or the scars and their belief in the prophet and all that stuff. That's intriguing. But let me know in the comments. What did you like? What did you love? What are you looking forward to moving forward? And again, I would love to know from not only my TV watchers like myself, who's experiencing this story for the first time, but my video gamers. How did this episode adapt the game at this point in the story? The Abby Dina relationship, the reveal that she's pregnant, the moment of them finally, having an intimate moment, the guitar scene, the train scene. Let me know, the major difference. I'm sure there are differences, but let me know in the comments. I would love to know. But with all that being said, we're going to continue the live discussion. But for those watching the breakdown, like, share, comment, consider subscribing, and consider joining the live stream. Every Sunday we go live to do a watch party, and then we have the live after show that's broken into this breakdown that you're all watching now. But come and join me next Sunday. With all that being said, I'll catch you all on the next breakdown. All right, my live folks. How we feeling? How we feeling about this episode? I've been talking a lot now. We go into the comments to see how we feeling. What's going on, buddy? Relax, relax. My little dog, I guess he didn't like the episode either. He's over here barking. Where were we last? Let's see. Wow, I just read someone say this was their favorite episode of the season. Maybe this episode did hit some people. Wow. I mean, to each their own. I thought this is the weakest episode, not of just this season, but of the series. But yeah, no, this episode connects the first game to the second game and the current game. Okay. The graphic scenes seem cheap and unearned. Really? I don't know. Like I said, one of the strongest points of this episode to me was the production. Would humanity actually respond to an apocalypse event by trying to dominate any other faction? Sad interpretation of humanity, if you ask me. Not to get too. I mean, I think our real world has proven that. I mean, obviously, we've never experienced an apocalyptic event, but we've experienced some pretty catastrophic and horrific events as a people. And I think we have shown, unfortunately, many times that people will make more of a mess than is already out there, unfortunately. But some people might see it differently. But the history of the world has proven, at least in my eyes, that when things go south, people pick their sides. People choose themselves over the greater good. I mean, but yeah, not to be a Debbie Downer, but like I said, I think history has proven that many and many times. But yeah. Analysis of the season. The sequence of the events did not feel natural, Paul says. Yeah, that's like I said, the sense of urgency or the lack of urgency was the thing that bothered me in this episode. If I think my friend's affected, I think having sex is the last thing. Yeah, but young, horny, pregnant, emotions are high. I wonder if you played the game, if it felt very good. But if you didn't, if it was weird. I didn't play the game, so the entire show was a lot of gaps for me. Yeah, like I said, I haven't played the game either. But I knew about the Joel death, but I know something else that happens a lot later in the game. But other than that, all this other stuff is brand new to me. Do you think the showrunners are aiming for fan service in each episode, but the plot continuously lacks? I mean, that's tough, right? I don't know what the showrunners are thinking. I'm pretty sure there's a sense of them that they want to make sure that fans of the game are happy, but at the same time, there's a huge chunk of your audience that's never played the game, even if it is one of the biggest games over the past decade. So, that's why you bring in a Neil Druckmann, the creator of the game, and then you bring in someone like Greg Mason. You have that source of information from the creator, and then you have a showrunner and tries to marry the two, and you have the showrunners that want to appease both sides, and it's not always an easy thing to appease fans. There's always something to dissect, always something to look at negatively. So it's not an easy position to be in. But I think to your point, it can get rough when you're trying to appease everybody, right? Because you're never going to do that. So, yeah. Bad timing. Somebody should have took them out. Yeah, I mean, again, the lack of awareness in this episode was pretty crazy. That's why very Twilight. Yeah, it was kind of some Twilight vibes in tonight's episode for sure. Even though I've only seen one episode or one of the movies, I'm not a big Twilight guy. Girls, I don't know. Young and Naive, yeah, from what I've been told, something snaps inside Ellie when Joel is murdered and is missing from the season. That's what I was saying earlier, Aisha. It's just like and again, I like complex, layered. I don't want my characters to just be one thing. But the reason they're in Seattle is to get revenge. So it's just like, this isn't a vacation, a family vacation. This is you took yourself out of town. And again, I am to imagine that Jesse's going to probably go after them. Tommy's going to get involved, and you're bringing people into the situation after voting not to go. So yeah, it just seems like it's just like, oh, this is a fun weekend. There's a weekend trip. It's like, no, you were there to set it off. And after you kill Abby, you think everything's just easy peasy, and they're just going to be like, oh, an eye for an eye. Let's just move. No, the cycle's going to continue. So I don't know. Just that part seems to be missing. The purpose, the mission seems to be lost in the sauce. But yeah, 5 out of 10. Yeah, that sounds about right to me, Kevin. Joe says the things that didn't work in this episode were done much better in the game. They don't see much from the main checkpoints in the game with the night miss. Yeah, again, I'll watch. I don't normally watch them, but I am curious to know. Like after each episode, they do the making of. I would love to hear some of the decisions or what went into the decisions of tonight's episode. Some of the creative choices. I want to watch that. I'm gonna watch the game first. I don't know if there's any NBA fans out there, but I don't give away the score because I have the game on pause right now. The Warriors in Game 7, the Rockets. But after that, I'll watch the after show to get some insight from the creators on some of the decisions tonight. Not my favorite episode, and as much as I miss Pedro, I really don't feel connected to Ellie. The revenge emotions. To me, Abby was angry, and Abby comes off upset. And if that makes sense, no, 100% makes sense to me, Justin. What you're saying, that's what I think. That's what I'm feeling as well, man. Like I don't feel like the main objective of why they're there seems to be forgotten. It seems to be kind of like, if it really comes down to it, I almost feel like if Abby and Ellie at this point in the story, if Abby and Ellie were in the same room, I don't know if Abby would or Ellie would react in a way that I would hope that she would react, which is, let's get down. I'm gonna kill you. Like it's no questions asked. Like that Ellie that was on the floor screaming and crying for Joel and saying, I'm gonna effing kill you all. That I don't know where that Ellie is. We haven't seen her since that moment. And I know some of it. We know some of it's been it's all kind of a facade, right? When she was kind of putting on face for Gail in episode 3, she's put it on like a pretend like, oh, I'm fine, I'm good. But I don't think that she would, now that she's like literally in the same area where Abby is, like you would think that that facade would be broken, but now she seems pretty content on just being like, oh, we'll just see what happens. If I see Abby, will I kill her or I'll shake her hand? I don't know. Maybe I'll ask her if she wants to come to the baby shower. I don't know. It feels forgotten at this point in the story. But yeah. Doesn't a pregnancy change everything, even at the end of the world? Yeah, I would think so. I would think Dina and also Ellie, I think they would be, I don't know, more responsible and be like, live to fight another day. But no, they're like, together we're gonna, I don't know, it seems silly, but I guess that's the game too. Exactly. Where is that Ellie? I don't know. She's that Ellie's in Jackson. That Ellie is somewhere in Jackson. Right, we're supposed to believe Ellie would cut loose on. Yeah, like I said, at this point, if they were in the same room, I think literally Ellie would be like, I don't know, high five. How's it going? I don't know. I'm being funny, but yeah, I don't think this current version of Ellie don't got that dog in her. I don't think she would kill Abby, if I'm being honest. But maybe something changes. I mean, at this point, the only way I can see Ellie getting back on that level of vengeance is if something happens to Dina. It's the only way I can see her getting back on like Rambo, John Wick. But right now, the love is definitely, she's calling herself a dad and all that stuff. It's like, homie, what's up? Where's that dog in you? But anyway, Ellie should be having the energy of the. What a good movie. What a good set of movies. I love Kill Bill. I have a list of names and all of them getting checked off. The vibe, more sisterhood of travel. That's a good one, Justin. Yeah, man. Yeah. And look, the whole attitude that Abby or Ellie has right now, if years have went by, maybe I can understand the loosening up the foot on the pedal. Even though that was the opposite for Abby. So like Abby got angrier and angrier as the years went by. But I would imagine that, some separation, that Ellie would be a little bit maybe not as gun-ho to kill or get revenge. But we're talking, that was 3 months ago. And she was in a hospital for that whole time. Or at least in and out of the hospital. So you would think she would be even more pissed. That not only did she lose her dad, but she was essentially broken physically and mentally, that she would just be like, I've been in hell, we'll go back to episode 3. She's been training even when she wasn't supposed to, doing push-ups and, doing the punching bag with Jesse and getting the ammo, getting all that stuff ready. I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. It seems weird. It seems odd the way they're handling that story. But plot twist, Jesse isn't the daddy. All right. That was a funny line. She was like, Dina, for these trees. She was like, is Jesse the dad? Like, yeah. Yeah, that would be a plot. I mean, I don't think they'll do that, but that would be wild. They'll be pretty crazy. 11 years later. Well, I think the 11 years later was from the cold open 2018. So we're 11 years removed from, the origins of Isaac. But yeah. Y'all calm down and keep watching the show progress. Hey, I can't speak for the beautiful people in the comments, but I'm just speaking for myself. I'm calm, but gotta call it like I see it. This was a bad episode, but I would hope that things get better. But this was not a good episode. What do you think Isaac's political one? What do you think of Isaac's political 180? Political 180. What, when he killed the people? I mean, it shows that he was fed up with Fredra and fed up with how they carried themselves and was willing to end their lives to start a new one. So you have this think he was fed up by how they were treating others and they didn't move the way that he used to move or how he sees things, and he got rid of them. Which to me just speaks to, I mean, he's not a man that's going to sit and allow others around him to not carry themselves in a manner that he sees fit. So it just lets me know that he's a man of no nonsense. And maybe we needed that in this episode to parallel or to contrast the Ellie in this episode, how she's just so kind of, love is in the air. Why are we in Seattle again? I don't know, just to fall in love, I guess. Versus Isaac, he's so, so down about his cause and willing to kill people. So at least we had that to kind of look at as like the complete opposite of someone that's, in control. So how many years after Joe was killed are they keeping the same timeline as the game? I can't speak to the game, but if you remember last week, it showed that the day that Joel died, the story picked up 3 months later. So it's only been 3 months since Joel has been killed. So that would make Dina about 5 months. That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough call because we don't know, obviously, when they hooked up last. And, she said she was late on her period. So she may be, because I thought that she said her. And because if you think about it, her and Jesse were broken up when we were introduced to the story in episode 1. And they had the dance and all that stuff. So they were broken up then. For what I remember, like they were broken up for a while. The next episode was episode 2. That was the very next day. So yeah, she's probably only like 3 months pregnant. 90 days pregnant or whatnot. So I don't know. Timelines might be off, but I would say less than 5 months for sure, being pregnant. What's this question here? Unrelated, but Trump is trying to tariff movies made out of the U.S. Thoughts? I don't have many thoughts. Ryan. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't think it's not a good thing for the movie industry because a lot of big productions are being made internationally, overseas, because it's too expensive to shoot in LA. So putting tariffs on it, that's going to be crazy. I mean, the person I would be asking is Bob Iger. He's a Trump supporter, so I wonder how he feels about it, especially with the biggest movie that they're going to probably be making in Doomsday. They're shooting most of that is in England, and I know a lot of DC projects are in England. Supergirl is currently shooting in England. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff being made overseas. So that's not my. I would very. We'll see, right? But great question, man. I need more information before I give a full thought, but we'll see. Paul says, "How come Andor is so much better than the show?" I mean, that's subjective. Don't get me wrong. I think Andor is. I haven't watched the new season. I'm just gonna watch it when it all comes out. But it's subjective. Well, from what I'm hearing Andor is pretty fire. So, which isn't surprising because season 1 was great. But anywho, I think we're gonna call it a night, y'all. Again, I wish the episode was not a little, but I wish it was stronger because it's, like I said, in my opinion, this is episode 2 of the season. Because I feel like last week was a pilot and episodes 1 and 2 were an epilogue to season 1. So it's the second episode, in my opinion. But the thing that is like a little upsetting is this is episode 4 of 7. So we got 5, 6, we got 3 episodes left. So that's a problem. Like I feel like we're gonna end the season on like a cliffhanger, or end the season in a way that it feels kind of cheapened by like an episode like tonight. So anyway, I will see you all next Sunday for episode 5. Fingers crossed it's a banger of an episode, and I feel like it will be, but we'll see. In the meantime, for my Marvel fans, we just talked about Disney. I don't know if you all have seen Thunderbolts, but if you have, I have a pretty fun video on the channel now that breaks down the movie and my thoughts on Marvel and the ending and all the different stuff that the film has to offer. So check that out. And what else is this week? I'll have what is it called? Fight or Flight. It's a new Josh Hartnett action film that I'm gonna be watching soon. So keep an eye out for that video. And I'll have a bunch of like short form videos, just some like talking about Thunderbolts and what have you. So check that out. Check it out, y'all. I would appreciate it. Few more comments. Time to cut the shit for Trump. Yeah, whenever Trump gets in the conversation, it's like, all right, maybe we need to. Oh. Yeah, funny. I always ask if anyone need anything from the store. Mind my business. That'll probably be in the season when Ellie come and face. Oh, you might be. I'm gonna remember that. You might be right. We'll see. But anywho, thank y'all for watching. Elliot, you like horror, right? Check out the Warriors Together trailer. Yeah, I like horror. Check out the Warriors Together. I've seen Together, which is the not Brie Larson, but Allison Brie and Dave Franco, which I heard is great. But Warriors, I don't know what Warriors is. Warriors movie. Or maybe did you mean maybe Weapons? Yeah, because I don't know what Warriors. First teaser Warriors. Yeah, I don't see a movie named Warriors, but if you're referring to Weapons, yeah, that's my most anticipated film for the rest of the year. I am so excited for that. But yeah. Like Kevin said, thumbs up before y'all head out. And Weapon. Yeah, I figured you were talking about yeah, yo. I'm so excited. And I know someone that read the screenplay last year and said it's pretty bonkers. Like the trailer did a good job of giving us just the bare minimum. A lot of stuff to look forward to with Weapons, and I'm super excited. Not the hugest fan of Barbarians, especially the second half. But nonetheless, I think we might have something pretty crazy on our hands later this year, or not even later this year. This is 3 months. It comes out in August. So yeah, I'm really excited for Weapons, and I'm also excited for Together as well from Neon. So yeah, y'all. Again, thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, consider subscribing. Check out the podcast on Spotify and Apple. Many things coming to the podcast and on the channel. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. Yeah, I heard about that as well. But yeah, you guys have been awesome. Hope you had a great time with me tonight. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you guys have a great Monday, a great week. And I will see you next week. Thank you guys. Be safe. And you guys are awesome. Take care, everybody.